show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Invest in Yourself, the podcast series. I am, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better. And today I'm happy to have the joy seeker herself, Lisa White. Lisa, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come join us here on the show. I know you run 2 podcasts and plus your own coaching business. There's so much. So much. But so you host 2 podcasts, the Bursting with Happiness podcast, as well as the Story Junkies podcast. We're going to get into that as well because I was just listening. I haven't listened to Bursting with Happiness just yet, but I was listening to a couple episodes of the Stories Junkies because I love learning about people.
Right? Yeah.
And just one of the episodes, the one with Brad Williams, the guy who has hold on, I'm going to actually pronounce it properly.
Okay.
Hyperthymesia? I don't
Yes.
pronounce
Close
it.
enough.
Or it's called H-Sam, as he says in the episode. So, Lisa, welcome to the show. Please give us a quick introduction.
Yes, Phil. Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here. So, the Joy Seeker kind of summarizes it. That's what people call me. And I've just embraced it because that is what I am all about. Just inspiring people to find more joy for themselves, their communities, and ultimately all of humankind. That's my goal in life. That's why I'm here. It's why I podcast. It's why I write. And it's what I love to talk about.
Awesome. So we're going to start way at the beginning. When did you not that far?
Oh, okay.
I promise we're not going all the way back to the beginning of creationism. We're going to jump a few millennials forward to when did you start podcasting?
So I have to start just a little bit before that. I wrote a book in the summer of 2020 called Bursting with Happiness. And basically it talks about the theory that bursts of joy are what matter in life. And my belief is that the more bursts of joy we can incorporate into our lives, the happier lives we have. And a burst of joy is defined as anything that makes you smile, that the anticipation of doing it or experiencing it brings you a little pep in your step. And I saw too many people wasting time just waiting for these big things to happen. We're going to be happy when blank. And those are all great things when you get the promotion, when you get the job, when you find you're the love of your life. Absolutely. But true happiness is built on those moments in between. And we have to embrace the bursts of joy that we can create for ourselves and others each and every day. And that's what the book is about. I talk about 10 bursts of joy for me and the hope that it's going to inspire people to find them for themselves. So release the book. I loved it. People reached out from all over the world telling me that they resonated with it. They loved it because I'm actually quite honest and raw in the book. My life is not perfect and I struggle with anxiety and OCD and a lot of things that would make me not joyful, but I'm joyful despite them. And I talk about in the book how I do that. So the response was so great. And I wanted to keep the conversation going. People kept saying, when are you going to write another book? No. At least not right now. It's too much.
Yeah, writing a book takes, it's a lot.
Crying out loud. It's a lot.
Especially when you have anxiety and you're OCD because you're like,
oh my God.
My anxiety's like, I have anxiety and I feel that I may have, like, I don't think I have OCD to the extreme that some people have it, but I grew up being a perfectionist. And so my anxiety grew from that. And whenever I do an episode, I'm like, I get anxiety before an episode, but the minute it starts, it's my mini burst of joy. Like when I get an email saying that I got a booking for an interview, I'm ecstatic. I'm texting my friends and family saying, hey, I just landed this person or that person. This is what they've done. And I'm like super excited. And then the day of the episode arrives and anxiety just builds up.
And that's normal, but yet you're doing it anyway. And that's the key. I mean, any of us who does a podcast or writes something to put out into the universe, we all feel that. But the difference is we don't let that stop us and we just do it anyway. So I wanted to find a way to continue the conversation because I think the message is so important. People thought, oh, you're the joy seeker. It's because, you don't have any real struggles. Well, I call BS on that. We all have something and we can be joyful despite it. And so that's my message. That's what I talk about. And so I thought, why not create a podcast? Because then I can actually talk about it in real time, how to find joy when things are difficult, when things are challenging. And so I named the podcast the same as the book. It's called Bursting with Happiness, the podcast. And I love it because it's a weekly podcast where some days I just get on the mic and talk about my challenges and my struggles to be joyful, even when I'm not feeling so joyful. And then I bring guests on who have a different joy strategy. Maybe they've gone through something difficult, but found joy through that experience. Or maybe, they're more focused on things that I don't focus on to bring joy, because just because something works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for everybody. So I've had people who are practitioners of, what do you call it? Yoga. They're all about the yoga. They're all
I had that in my head. I'm like, I do yoga to get me happy, and it's a good workout. It gets you centered. It keeps you, because my mind is always going. I feel that I have ADHD, but I don't want to say I have ADHD because I've never been tested, and I don't want to be like, I'm just jumping on this because it seems like that. Like, I've been watching videos on it. I'm like, I feel like I have some of those similarities, or those qualities that some ADHD people have. But when I'm doing yoga, it just like, it turns off the brain, and it's like I have to focus on not falling over. I'm not thinking about the future, the past, or anything. I'm right there in the moment, and it brings me joy because it's like tranquility.
Exactly. And the whole point of the podcast is to introduce new techniques for people. I mean, there are some people who may have never thought to try yoga or meditation, but maybe listening to the episode where I'm talking to someone about it, they're like, wow, maybe that could work for me. And the idea is that everybody's going to leave from listening to the episode with a tangible thought and action that they can actually try, because you never know until you give it a shot, right?
It's true. It's very
true.
true.
And other people talk about nutrition, other people talk about being outdoors. I've had some people who go a little woo-woo, but some people love the woo-woo. And I'm gonna have them on the show because there may be a couple of listeners out there who it's just what they needed. And again, the response has been super fun. It's very casual and just about a good time. And the other show that you mentioned is Story Junkies. Now, this one was born during the pandemic, when a friend of mine and I were sitting around, and she said, wouldn't it be great to host a podcast together? And I thought, you know what, the idea of it brings me a huge burst of joy. I said, yes, it would. Let's talk more. Let's explore this. And we thought, how fun would it be to have each episode feature someone with a unique experience or story to share. And the whole idea would be just to have this person telling their riveting tales. And so we've had people who, I've had a guest who donated a kidney to her 2-year-old niece a couple of years ago, which was just fascinating. I had my husband, who is an avid mountain and ice climber. He spent 6 days and nights on a rock wall in Yosemite National Park. I'm like, dude, you got to be on our show. And
that must, I'm definitely going to be there. As you were speaking, telling I see it. He spent 6 days and nights on a rock wall.
Yes, he did.
My mouse is right on it. I'm like, okay, that's the next one I'm going to be listening to.
It's a great story because, first of all, we talk about the why. What would possess you to want to do something like this? And then how the heck did you do this? And I won't give too much away, but let's say that Rachel, my co-host, and I were very interested to know how he used the restroom. That was our top of mind question. We're like, dude, you gotta break this down, because really, how is this possible? And it was neat because, it's my husband. So I'm all, oh, it's Jonathan. But it was actually a really, really cool episode and a great story. So that one's just a super fun, where we're talking to people about unique experiences and adventures. Sometimes it's their job. We have a gal who is a professional paranormal expert. Now, whether you believe or not, it was a very cool episode because she goes to these historic buildings and locations all over the country and talks about what she's experienced. But not only do we let her tell it, we ask her, why? How did you get into this? What made you want to do this as a career? Tell us more. We go kind of deep in terms of the background that people have when they're doing the thing that they do. And it's been a great show. We have so much fun.
I feel that this show is my podcast series, at least. Sorry if there's like noises popping up. For some reason, I haven't muted the the announcements or notifications.
Uh,
Amateur move. But anyways, I feel that the podcast series is very similar to your Story Junkies podcast, because I always want to know why people started podcasting. I love hearing people's reasons for starting podcasting, because that's what brings me joy. When I get to work on a podcast, when someone calls me up and goes, Phil, I want help with my podcast, I'm like, yes, let's go. 100%. Like, I know we had a pre-interview where we chatted and you were asking questions, because podcasting is my business, my life. And you're like,
right.
what is it for, like, because you were asking, you mentioned in the pre-interview questionnaire that we do here at the show, like you were trying to get clients, you didn't know how to use podcasting to get clients, and I know I'm pretty sure I gave you some valuable tips, and you were very thankful for it and appreciate it, but that's all being learned from talking to people on my podcast, learning from them how they did it, so that I can pass it on. But just like the Joy Seeker and the Story Junkies, you're showcasing people how you can be either happy or some crazy adventure, like spending 6 days and nights and trying to figure out, like when you said he spent 6 days on nights, I was like, how did he go to the bathroom? That's the first thing that popped into my head, because it's like one day, you can probably hold it for one day and then you get off and then you're like, give me 3 hours, I'll be back, But 6 days, like you're against the wall, and you see these photos of people like living on the side of a wall, and you're like, no, just no. Not my cup of tea. I'll jump out of a plane, but staying glued to a wall, like no.
Right. But it's just, people are so different. And the idea of podcasting, for some people would say, why on earth would you do that? What brings you joy about that? So I believe that, as foreign as it is to what we do, is to what some people do, like spending 6 days and nights on a wall. And it's what makes the world turn. Everybody's different.
Yeah, and I love that you're showcasing the unique talents of other people, or the unique stories of other people, and just bringing, like, hey, this is something you can do, and if you're interested in it, like someone's listening, I go, you know what, that actually sounds kind of cool. Like spending 6 days on a rock wall, or let's see, breaking a Guinness World Record. I see you have an episode of. You have the Black Barbie author.
Talk Back Barbie.
Talk Back Barbie. My apologies.
She calls herself that. She was actually in the Secret Service for President Bush, and she channeled that experience into being called Talk Back Barbie, because when she was going through basic training, she is a beautiful woman, and so she's already kind of different from the most people who are in that program, but she had a mouth on her. And let's just say she tells a story about how she talked back to one of her superiors and earned the nickname Talkback Barbie. It was a fun episode, because she talks more. It's more than just that story. She's inspiring people to do things they don't think they can do, which is what she felt she was doing through her experience.
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely going to be enjoying your podcast when I do my walks and that, because some of the episodes have been just looking at it looks awesome. So you started your first podcast because you wanted to continue the conversation on your book, Bursting with Happiness. And then obviously the pandemic, and people are like, I need an outlet for something, or at least have that social interaction, because we got like lockdowns and can't go to the office, or you're losing this. And I love how you took your experience from one and was like, it's already bringing me joy. Let's double the joy. That's why I think I have 6 podcasts, because it just brings me so much joy.
And that's awesome. And I feel like people can sense it. When we love what we're doing, there's an energy around it. Whether or not I make a ton of money off of it, it's kind of irrelevant, because the initial reason I'm doing it is to connect with people, to create a community, to share my experience, to share other people's experience, knowledge. If I can help someone, be inspired to find a little more joy today, I've done my job. And people feel it. They sense it. I know they do, because they tell me, I listened to your episode today. And, there have been episodes, especially with Bursting with Happiness, where I get a little more personal, because it's me on some of the episodes. And, afterward, I'll wonder if I should have shared what I shared. But, the one thing I learned through the book is people want to connect. And the more vulnerable and honest and real we can be with people, the less alone everybody feels. And that's so important now, more than ever.
I fully agree with you. I think the honesty and the authenticity people we're in that shift of the fake it till you make it, which works in some occasions. If you need that confident boost because you have to go give a presentation, fake the confidence like you already have done that. But when you're interacting with people and you're being real with people and you're being your authentic self, I think that resonates more with people and they want to connect with you because they're like, oh, so they're just like me. They're not always 100% this confident, being that has all the, they're not perfect.
Right.
And with you sharing that with your book and the bursts of happiness, it shows that, not everybody's happy. Not everybody has all these amazing, woohoo world, and I think it's an amazing. I am definitely looking forward to listening. Unfortunately, I've been bombarded with interviews and cleaning my apartment. But I'm definitely going to be listening to the bursts of happiness because it is bursts of happiness, right? Yeah,
bursting with happiness. Yeah,
bursting. Good. Whew, tongue-tied.
No
But
worries.
I've already listened to a few of your stories, Junkies, and I just randomly picked. And unfortunately, the three that you talked about, like I didn't listen to the guy who broke the world record, but I did listen to your the Google like memory, which was just such a fun episode to listen to. But definitely going to be spending the six nights with your husband on the wall. Now, did he do this while you were married, or was it?
Yeah.
So I have to ask.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you talk about it in the episode, but I want to know, what was the conversation like when he was like, "Hey, honey, I'm going to go spend some time on a rock. You cool with that?"
So hiking, climbing, this is his burst of joy. Always has been. So when we've been married 23 years, which is 22
Congratulations.
years. Thank you. 22 years this July, which is crazy. We met when we lived in Virginia. I was born and raised in Virginia, and so was he. And we met and went out for dinner. And on that date, he said very casually, "I love climbing. I love the mountains. Someday I'm moving to Colorado." And I said, "Good for you, my friend. I really hope that works out for you," because I was very comfortable in Virginia, where I was born and raised. But it became very clear that this was a passion, a dream. And so a year later, he proposed, and I said, "Oh, crap, I guess I'm moving to Colorado." Because, very honest about his desire and his dream. So as soon as we moved out here, he started getting into skiing and a little bit of climbing. And then his passion grew, and pretty soon he was scaling ice walls. And he talks about a little bit of that in the episode. So when he said, "I'm going to stay on a mountain or the side of a wall for 6 days and nights," I was confused. How on earth are you logistically going to do that? I learned what a portaledge was. I learned a little bit. But, at this point, I'm like, okay, be safe. And, see you when you get back, because he is very safe. There's only been 2 instances in the 22 years where I've had to call rescue because I was nervous because he wasn't back when he said he was going to be back. And thankfully, both of those times were just him miscalculating how long it would take. But most of the time, I'm very comfortable. I know he knows what he's doing. He's not going to be careless and take unnecessary risks. But yeah, this is his passion. And, who am I to stand in the way of somebody to do what they love and find joy from?
I love that. And it's a great message. Don't take away people's joy.
Yeah.
If they like certain things, let them have it, because it's the most important thing.
Yes.
Now that you have 2 podcasts and you're running, the Bursting with Happiness have been going on for about 2 years now.
Yes. Holy moly. Close to it.
Close to 2 years, and the Story Junkies is about
a year and change. Yeah.
Year and change. What are some things that you've learned? Because this podcast is not only learning about podcasters, but also helping future podcasters or current podcasters with their pain points or some suggestions. So what is one tip would you say for someone starting out a podcast, since you're still early in the podcasting world, but starting a podcast, what would you say is a great tip for them?
Don't wait for perfection. Just like what you were saying earlier, you get nervous every time. And if we wait for perfection, we will never start it. Sometimes we just have to jump in and trust that we're going to get better. The first couple episodes I did, I look back now, I'm like, oh my gosh, Lisa, really? But I've grown and I've improved my skill, my ability to interview people, the technology. It's not going to be perfect. And if you wait for it to be perfect, if you wait to start something, until you are 100% sure that you know everything you're going to be doing, you will never do it. You will never start it. So my biggest piece of advice, and I actually talk to people who ask, how do I get started? Just start. Just start and trust that you will figure it out as you go along. You don't have to know all the answers. You just have to know the first few steps, do them, and then continue to evolve and be open to growing. But I think that too often we get inside our own heads. We think we're not good enough. We think our message isn't good enough. We can't stand the sound of our own voice, whatever. Who cares? None of that matters. I know, right? You too. None of that matters, because what you have to say is more important than all of that other stuff that is trying to hold you back from doing it. So if you want to do it, do it. Absolutely do it.
I love it. It's such a...
Don't overthink it. Just do it.
Like Nike says, just do it, because without starting, you'll never know what you need to improve. You don't know what you don't know. Because obviously when you start, you know nothing, but you may already know 90% of the stuff that you need to do. And it's only a 10% that you're missing. So I love that. And I do resonate with that, because it is true.
It is, right? We overthink it, and we're so hard on ourselves. And at the end of the day, and I had a friend who was like, well, I think I want to make it talk about this, but I don't know if I want to lock that in. And I reminded her, well, you can start it to talk about X, Y, and Z. And as you evolve, if you decide you want to take it in a different direction, it's your show. Do what you want. You don't have to know exactly what the end result is going to be. Just start.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing. Just take that small leap of faith, put yourself out there, and we'll see where it goes. Like, it's a journey. Like the amount of people that I've been blessed to talk with on this show and on my other shows, and the knowledge that I've gained from them just from asking the questions has been immense. It's like a masterclass every time you have a guest on, because you're learning something specific about those individuals, and you just gain so much knowledge. Like you said, just do it, just start. Like, I would never have thought about people living on the side of a wall for 6 days, and like, I'm very interested in knowing how he went to the bathroom. Please tell me he answers that question at least.
Oh yeah. Oh
okay,
yeah.
Thank God.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't want to listen to a whole thing and be like, wait, what? No, you didn't ask.
Of course we ask. No, we ask those kinds of questions.
Awesome. Yes. No. Yeah. Now, what is apart from, I know you mentioned your pain point in our pre-interview, but another pain point in the podcasting realm, maybe not the one that you currently face, but what would be a pain point that you've overcome? You were stuck at something, and then you figured out a solution, and you went through with it.
Interesting. Because I have guests on my show, there is a bit of excitement and unpredictability. There have been times when I have interviewed someone and for the Bursting with Happiness podcast, and it didn't go exactly the way I wanted. Like, maybe it was just flat. Maybe it was, the message wasn't as strong as I thought it was going to be. And for whatever reason, in my gut, it didn't feel right. And that's hard. Now, I do have something on my, intake form that says, hey, look, I intend to air every single episode I record, but sometimes, whether it's the quality of the audio or whether it's just not a good fit afterward, that is my right, because it's my show.
Yeah.
I did have to do that twice. Once the audio was really bad, I gave the lady an opportunity to, re-record, and we didn't do it. And that's fine. But I was, hey, we can certainly re-record and do it again. But she was busy. There was another episode that I thought the guest was going to go in a different direction than she did. And it was hard. It was hard for me because I respected her time. She gave me 35, 40 minutes of her time. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it didn't feel right. I felt she was a little salesy. My integrity for my audience and my brand and my show did not allow me to go in that direction. So it was hard because I'm a pleaser, Phil. I mean, I love people. I love everything. I'm going to find the positive in a situation. And this forced me to have a tough conversation with someone, to disappoint someone. And that was hard. I don't
like those conversations.
Oh,
They're
so uncomfortable.
Not fun.
But I did give her the opportunity to re-record with the suggestions I had. And, she decided it wasn't worth the effort and the time. And I respected that. But for me to have to say, look, it wasn't a fit, and here's why. Having the cojones to actually do that was really uncomfortable. But once I did it, there's a sense of pride. It's like, all right, I stood up for what I believed in. I pushed back something I didn't care for, and I grew from it. But it was not fun.
I can only, no, it didn't. That does not sound like something fun. And I know that feeling, having that interview that you're like, oh, that wasn't the best, or it's not really resonating with my ideal listener and what I was hoping for. I've had a few of those, and like you, I have that little thing at the end of the saying that it may or may not be aired depending on the quality of the conversation. So no, I fully understand that. And you're right, it is your show, you have full control over it. But those conversations, when you decide, hey, it's not going to be aired, you're like, oh, those conversations are not. No, can we just put that ugliness? I don't want to deal with it, put it down. But it's so important because, like you said, it made you grow. It was uncomfortable, but afterwards you're like, nothing bad happened from it. We're still okay. The world is still spinning. Let's move on. So the next one probably will be even easier than that.
Yeah. And I've learned more about how to be more upfront of what I need from the show. And of course you can edit stuff, and you put that in there as well, that you have the ability to edit, things out that you feel necessary. But disappointing people sucks.
It does.
Period.
No one wants to be disappointed.
Yeah.
It's the worst. Like, I'll take someone being mad at me any day of the week.
Yeah.
But when someone says I'm disappointed in you, it hurts.
Right in the gut.
Yeah, it hurts. But so your podcast, Bursting with Happiness, goes with your book. Story Junkies. Is there going to be a book for Story Junkies culminating all these stories, these amazing stories that you had?
Maybe. I won't say no. Maybe. Not ready to commit quite yet. But I do think that it would make for an interesting book, in that even if we could somehow tie some element of these stories together, the people that we're connecting with, and what do these people have in common? What drives them? I don't know. There could be some really cool analysis going into a book like that. So I don't know quite yet, but stay tuned. How's that?
Stay tuned. I like that. It's on the table. It's not off the table. It's on the table, and we're going to look into the future for that. Now, your shows, are they weekly shows, monthly shows, daily shows, bi-weekly? How do you do that? Like, what made the decision?
So Bursting with Happiness is weekly-ish. It's weekly-ish. Sometimes I go 10 days, just depending on what's happening in my life. I try to stay weekly to it. Bursting with Happiness, I've released season 1 had 50 episodes, which was like Shangri-La. I'm excited about that. I didn't realize how many I did. So I just dropped episode 51 last week. So that was exciting to start season 2. Story Junkies is a little more challenging because we have 3 people's schedules. It's my co-host and I, and then the guest. So that one typically tends to be monthly-ish. We released 12 episodes in season 1, and just released the episode you referenced, Brad Williams, last week. So we try to stay to a schedule. And that's another thing that I tell people. And I know you're the podcast expert, so you may totally disagree with this, but I've actually had friends ask, how I can't start because I can't commit to, how, weekly or bi-weekly. I remind them to slow their roll, shoot for whether it's bi-weekly or whatever feels right. But if they are delayed a couple days, nobody is going to be, especially since they're not getting sponsors right now or making commitments. Nobody's going to be knocking down the door saying, where's my episode? It was supposed to be launched yesterday, So I think in the beginning phase, if that's a roadblock for people, I remind them to just do it and do the best you can. And then you'll figure out your schedule as you go.
Yeah, I generally suggest start at a monthly episode, because that's not too much commitment, because it's but I kind of try and force them to have a specific date. So it's like the first Friday of every month, I'm going to release an episode. So it at least gives you 4 weeks. You're like, I'm going to record the episode today, or I'm going to record it later, edit it. So you have that time. I do believe in starting. Don't try and do a daily podcast right off the bat if you haven't done it and you don't have that, you don't have the time to commit to it.
Right.
But if you can commit to at least 12 episodes, you'll be higher up than 90% of podcast. Actually, 99% of podcasters, actually, because most fail after 10 episodes. So if you can get to 12, boom, I know.
Wow.
There's close to 3 million podcasts last time they checked. And I'm about certain about the numbers, but it's about 80% of them within the last 90 days had not released an episode.
Oh, wow.
So there's that. Like if you can release once a month, you're doing more than 80% or 99% of podcasts out there, because you're at least every 30 days. I know I'm going to get an episode of the show. So, and the commitment for the podcaster isn't that hard. And you can, if you want, you can record them in 1 month and then just schedule them out. So you don't have to worry about, oh no, I have to record an episode. It's already recorded. That's what I do with my shows. Cause I run 6. I'm like, I'm going to batch as many as I can together, so that like my life is pretty much easy, breezy, beautiful cover girl. We are coming to, I've always loved that line, easy, breezy, beautiful cover girl.
Love it.
It's a great tagline because it stays with you forever.
Yes, it does.
Lisa, I'm going to jump off screen because I want to have you tell my audience where they can find you, where they can possibly purchase your Bursting with Happiness book, as well as the podcast. So the floor, madame, is yours.
Awesome. So to connect with me, everything you need is at thejoyseeker.com. There you'll find links to both podcasts as well as Bursting with Happiness, the book. It'll take you directly to the Amazon link. One thing that I want to mention, since Phil seemed really interested in my husband's travels, go to thejoyseeker.com/blog, and you'll see I blog all about a variety of topics, but there are a couple in there that talk about Jonathan and the one time that his emergency beacon went off and called, and it was a whole thing. So check it out. You won't regret it.
Excellent. Yes, of course, everybody, the links will be in the show notes down below to connect with Lisa, the Joy Seeker, if you will, her books, and everything else will be in the links down below. And I highly suggest you guys listen to Story Junkies, because it's just a fun stuff, and you're learning about all these really interesting people. So Lisa, I want to thank you again for being such an amazing guest, taking the time to chat with us about your podcast and your podcast, How to Find Happiness, and all the great stories that you had. And remember, everybody, to at least invest in yourself.